She slams the file drawer shut, but the corner of the last folder snags, and a thin scrap of paper flutters free. When she grabs it, the ink still glistens. The hurried line reads, "Meet me before you burn it." The drawer hums, a pulse that shouldn't be there. The seal she just broke was supposed to be airtight. Something is wrong. Why was that warning already awake inside the locked case? The filing room stays fluorescent cool, the overhead light buzzing softly as it does every late shift. She slides the drawer back with a practiced hand, the metal rails whispering. Beyond the frosted glass, the city breathes through the ventilation grates. Steady, familiar, filtered. Her desk calendar is still on Tuesday. The stamped blue dot makes everything feel orderly. She sets the scrap atop the case, then leans in to rub dust from the label, aligning the indexed tabs so the next person sees the clean edge she always expects. Down the hallway, the receptionist's laughter rolls by, bright and routine, reminding her nothing has shifted beyond the building's hum. A slow elevator chime punctuates the echo, the same note every hour when someone goes up for a break. She pulls out a fresh manila, slips the folder in with care, and patters the drawer shut again. This time the seal settling with the reassuring hiss it always makes when everything, as far as she can tell, is in its place. The kettle hissed and stopped, steam curling above the chipped sink as Mara dragged a dish towel across the marble. Luke leaned over the table, fingers tracing the red circles on the hospital bill, while Mara opened the drawer and pushed a stack of envelopes toward him. "You have to see what the numbers actually say," Mara said, lips tight. She slid one envelope out, cracked it, and passed the letter to him. The words swam until he shook his head as if to clear them. Luke let the paper drop back onto the table. "If I tell Dad, he'll go back to work tomorrow." He tapped the stamp with his fingernail. He already thinks the surgery worked. He doesn't need to imagine losing the house, too. Mara didn't answer. She took the second envelope, held it up so the kitchen light glossed the edges. "When Jenna called, I didn't tell her the tumor's grown," she said. "I lied and said you were feeling better. She wants to get on a plane." Her hands curled around the paper until it creased. "I told her we'd wait for the test results." Luke watched her. "You think locking yourself inside the truth keeps her calm," he said softly. "But Mara, the silence is crushing you." His thumb hammered the table once. "What good is protecting her if you're the only one awake at night?" Mara slammed the envelope down. "Don't tell me about crushing," she snapped. "You're the one who lied to the doctor about the coughing fit so we could get another week with him." Her face flared. "We all lie now." The front door thudded. "Let me know when you can't carry it anymore." Mara nodded. Luke reached across and laid his palm over hers, then dropped it. They shared a look, a small release, a pledge to keep the painful silence intact for now, even though it cracked them open a little more each day. The kettle bucked again, signaling the boil. Mara turned to let the hot water run into the cups. The room filled with the hiss of steam and the low, unavoidable fact that keeping secrets had a price. Eli finally opened his eyes and exhaled. "Tomorrow," he said. "Call Jenna. Tell her the truth about the tests." Mara's jaw stayed tight. "Tomorrow," she echoed. "Just not tonight." The waiting room buzzed with flickers from the vending machine. But Mara stood with her back to the glass wall, palms flat on the cold panel, while Jenna folded and unfolded a paper cup like a worry stone. Luke slipped through the door, carrying a stack of lab printouts, eyes darting to Mara first. "You can't keep stacking small silences," Mara said without looking at him. Her voice scraped against the ceiling, tight. Every lie to keep someone calm feels like letting rust eat a stair you still plan to climb. She turned slowly, every inch of her stance trembling, and set her jaw. I'm not sure which part of me stops being mine when I choose compassion over truth. It's already hollowed me out. Jenna's fingers tightened around the cup until it creaked. Then she set it down and leaned forward, eyes stark. We've been pretending silence is harmless, she said. But every time you two don't say something. She tapped the bridge of her nose. I lose track of how to argue for myself. I feel smaller, like I've transferred pieces into a void. Her voice cracked once, then steadied. If we keep this up, we'll forget what our words are for. Her gaze landed on Luke. And you'll forget how to fight. Luke dropped the folder onto the table, papers fanning out. He didn't speak. Instead, he reached for Mara's wrist and squeezed. When Eli's footsteps clipped against the hallway tiles, Mara jerked, one breath catching as a new tremor shook loose in her chest. Eli pushed through the door a half step too fast, shoulders angled like he could wedge the truth out with momentum. You said you needed to talk, he said, scanning the room. I came early. Tell me everything you promised would be on the table. His eyes were fixed on Mara, then flicked to Jenna, then Luke. The air stilled. Mara swallowed, shoulders sagging. The tests are tomorrow, she said fast, voice low. We'll face it when they're done. Tonight, we're letting him rest. The words landed like gravel. Eli's jaw clenched. You told me full disclosure was the deal. Eli shot back. You're the ones who said no secrets. If you keep the worst ones to yourselves, how am I supposed to trust any part of this, Mara? He stepped closer, palms open but tense. Silence isn't neutral in this room, or in this. Every time you hold it, I feel myself shrinking, like you're erasing what we agreed on. Luke inhaled sharply, then exhaled with a sound that was nearly a laugh. He motioned to a chair and gestured for Eli to sit. He's right about the tests tomorrow, Luke said. We'll go over them together. For now, Eli, we're not ready to... His voice stopped when Mara's hand landed flat on his forearm, nails pressing light. Mara let out a breath that rattled against Eli's ribs. I hear you, she said, and the words came out bone deep. I'm trying not to become someone made of silence. Her thumb rubbed the inside of her wrist. But tonight we protect him from fear. That's the deal we made. Eli stared, the fight simmering in his face. Then he slid onto the chair. He didn't lean back, kept forward, chin tucked. All right, he said, voice quieter but still iron. You dragged me into the quiet. But know this. I'm watching. Silence is wounding me now. He pulled out his phone, thumb flicking open a recorder app. Just so this evening isn't lost. Maybe I'll hear myself next time when you go quiet. Luke flipped the folder closed, slid it across to Eli, his fingers brushing Mara's still warm wrist as if answering her tension. We'll go through the scans together, Luke promised. And when the tests are in, nothing stays silent. Mara nodded, eyes fixed on Eli, a tremor of relief slicing through her. Jenna exhaled, the paper cup softening in her hands. A tiny release. Eli lifted the folder, eyes scanning the cover where the patient's name circled itself in Luke's handwriting. He didn't protest further, but the recorder blinked red. Tonight's silence still bore weight, but between the breathing room and the recorded words, there was a barest shred of something. A promise that when the tests arrived, nothing would drift into that void again. Mara leans over the counter, her fingers dragging the edge of the chipped ceramic mug that still smells like cold coffee. Jenna paces in figure eights between the sofa and the kitchen island. the heels of her hands pinching the bridge of her nose every time she passes the bulletin board where Eli's test schedule is pinned. The air buzzes with the low hum of the hospital pager on the side table, a reminder that time is still sliding past them. We shut down because we hoped silence would spare him, Jenna says, voice rising with each circle. And now he's the one holding recorders to the table because he can hear that quiet eating us alive. That's fractured trust, Mara. He hears us tiptoe around the truth, and his suffering doubles because he thinks we don't trust him to handle it. She snaps her hand toward the recorder Eli pressed against the lamp after the last call. He asked for full disclosure tomorrow. We promised him honesty, and now we're debating if keeping him unknowing tonight is kindness. Who are we if we keep choosing the lie? Luke pushes the stack of scans across the dining table until they click against each other. He runs his thumb over the edge of the top image and doesn't meet Jenna's eyes. It isn't the same lie as before, he says quietly. Eli asked for time to process. He asked for the truth tomorrow. I told him we would go through the scans with him the moment the results arrive. I'm not saying we keep him blind forever, but we agreed tonight would be for grounding him, not piling on. His fists open and close at his sides, the muscles in his forearms tense as if he's balancing a weight invisible to Jenna. Jenna stops pacing. Grounding doesn't look like ignoring the fact he's already cradling the silence and wondering if it means we don't believe he can bear it. He recorded us because he's already clinging to proof that we're still there. That proves that silence is what broke his trust in us. Mara lifts the mug, lets it clang against the sink, and turns toward the two of them. Then let's not pretend we're doing him a favor. We can't keep pretending compassion is a softer version of hiding the truth. If he's suffering in silence, then each quiet moment is a fracture. She pads over to the small corkboard by the door, takes the pen off the magnet, and sketches a rough timeline. Scan results arrive, 8:30 a.m. Eli on call, 9 a.m. Review scans together before telling. The pen tip stutters as she draws a line linking the events, her breath quick with each stroke. Luke leans in, tapping the timeline. A reward flickers through the tension as the structure offers something to cling to. We hold to the request for tonight. We don't start the conversation until he's on the call tomorrow. But we stop pretending the silence tonight is protective. We sit down with him first thing, review the scans, and we let him set the tone for how we say it. No more unspoken agreements. He exhales, the breath sounding like a ledger closing. Jenna pulls her phone from her pocket and scrolls to the text thread with Eli. She doesn't send a message. She can't. But she types, deletes, types again, finally nodding as if shaping the words calms her. I'll be there at 9 with coffee. We'll say the same, the whole thing. I want him to hear that we broke the silence together. She taps the screen, then slips the phone back into her pocket, fingers still curled as if holding onto the plan. The moral debate still sizzles, but for now it settles into the cracks between them, tangible and solved for the night. They won't keep silent forever. They'll stop letting silence become suffering. Mara picks up a stack of clean towels and drapes them over the armchair, smoothing the fabric like a promise. Luke shoves the scans back into the envelope, tape sealing with a click, while Jenna takes the recorder off the lamp and sets it on the coffee table. Face up, as if to remind them that Eli's ears still listen even when he sleeps. The fractured trust is not healed, but a plan now threads through it. A small payoff they can touch before the next pressure arrives. The fluorescent strip above the break room sputters as Jenna drags the laptop over to the round table. She hits pause on the interview file the team had worked through together and rewinds, fingers bouncing on the trackpad until a familiar voice bleeds from the speakers. When I started saying the tumor was steady, I stopped recognizing the person in my own body. Mara had told Dr. Sato years ago, and the words crackle back as if they were being said now. Eli leans forward, eyes locked on the screen as the audio cuts to another clip. One where he admits that he had taught himself to smile through fear so no one would look at him like a problem. The room hushes, not from silence, but from the press of someone else's truth that suddenly curves around all of them. Eli pushes away from the chair and walks to the counter, dragging a mug down by accident. The ceramic rattles, and he doesn't pick it up. "I heard how I sounded in those interviews," he says, voice raw. And he keeps his back to them so they just see the tense line of his jaw. "You're right that I can't keep leaning on every confession to feel grounded. If I let you wrap yourselves around me, you crack too. The boundary's not theoretical. It's fragile glass." Luke stands, hands in his pockets, and nods while Mara tilts her head, as if the space behind her could hold the tension. Eli turns and, in the same breath, grabs a chair, drags it up to the table, and sits square. "But I'm also asking you to keep your promise," he adds, eyes sweeping the others. "I want those scans at 9. I need the truth in the same room I've just been confiding in. I'm not going to swallow silence anymore." Mara shuffles a stack of papers, extracts the timetable she taped to the wall earlier. She slides the sheet across to Eli, while Luke keeps his gaze on the interview playback, looping in the background, letting the last words echo. "The lies shaped me into someone else, but now even that someone is part of me." Mara draws a line between the midnight marker and the 9 a.m. circle that she's underlined twice. "We honor that boundary," she says, tapping the 12-hour gap. "You get the scans with us first thing, and after that we answer every question. No more deflecting." Eli takes a breath, nods, and the tension in his shoulders eases in a visible release as he runs a hand over the cover of the folder. Luke steps forward, sets his palm on the table near Eli's hand. "I'll be the one to walk through the scan room with you, the one to turn the first page. The small contact is the payoff. The moment the team doesn't just promise, but demonstrates care." Jenna closes the laptop, its battery icon blinking, the truth indicator still stuck at 0.65 on the corner of the screen. A reminder that they're only partway there, but moving forward. Eli rises again, slower this time. He pulls the chair back enough to leave a gap between himself and the table, looking at Mara and Luke with a steady stare. "Tonight," he says, "I keep this distance. Tomorrow, we close it." The words settle over everyone, a mini resolution. The interviews have exposed who they were in silence. The boundary has been named and honored, and the timeline to confront the scans is fixed in place. The living room feels too bright for the hour. Jenna drags the recorder's slider to the middle, the hiss of her own voice pulsing in the stale air. Mara leans over the coffee table, palms flattening on the grain. And when the replay cuts, she doesn't sit down again. She is a wall of coiled motion. "You told me he was improving," Jenna says without looking up. "You told me to stay away because you hadn't even thought through what Eli would need tonight." She points a precise finger at Mara. "Name the cost of that silence." Mara breathes out through clenched teeth. "I told you Luke was steady so you wouldn't race over," she says. "I told myself I could keep you from seeing him like that. And all I did was stew in a lie until it felt like rot. That's the cost. I've been defending my own cowardice instead of facing Eli." The words land with a sharp click. Jenna's fists unclench. The recorder sits between them, a small, glittering, accusatory eye. Luke pushes back from the couch, papers fanned across his lap. He grips the edge of the coffee table until his knuckles go white, then drags the latest printout toward him. "I softened the Tumor report," he says. I said stable when the afternoon scans were murky. That silence made me lie to Eli's face, and hearing him replay the calls this evening gave me the shape of the crack I've been hiding behind. He slaps the printout down, spreading the scans like splayed wings. I can't do distance anymore, not to him, not to you, not to myself. A door creaks. Eli's head appears in the hallway, half in shadow, half out. "You're all talking about me without me in the room," he says, voice low but taut. "I asked for distance, but I'm here now because your quiet has been louder than anything I've heard." The tension spikes. Jenna's eyes flick to Eli, then back to Mara. Mara straightens, slowly walking toward Eli without crossing the threshold. "We keep the schedule," she says, "but the silence isn't safe anymore. We know tomorrow is the moment to tell you everything. No more holding back." Eli nods once, just enough to keep the night from becoming a fight. "Then show me you mean it," he says, and the simple demand is itself a weight lifted. Jenna picks up the recorder, drops it back when she feels Eli watching her. "You'll hear me say it first thing," she says to Eli, then to Mara and Luke. "And we're going to mean it. No more excuses for silence." They all look at each other, a quiet accord passing between a lie admitted, a truth promised, and a night that can't be undone. Mara brings her hand to the doorway and rests it on the jamb, fingers trembling but steady enough. Luke kneels by the chair, takes the test papers, and fans them toward Eli like an offering. Jenna closes the recorder lid with a snap, the click of finality echoing through the room. The silence afterward smells less like avoidance and more like a breath taken before the telling. The overhead lights click on just as the clock on the wall hits 9 bas. Eli is already in the corner chair, shoulders rigid, eyes tracking the door. Mara slips in ahead of Luke, laptop bag thumping against her hip. She drops it on the long table, flips open the screen, and hits the play button. The scan fills the center monitor with black and white depth, grainy, alive. Eli's gaze jumps between the fierce gray mass and Mara's mouth. Luke follows, hands empty, but he doesn't sit. His palms find the edge of the desk, knuckles whitening. "We went through every slice again," he says, not wanting the silence to creep back. "This is what we saw last night, and we both agreed. We can't move until you see it." The room smells faintly of coffee and antiseptic. Eli leans forward, his chair scraping the floor. Mara doesn't look away. "The tumor moved," she says, pointing to a brighter node. "In the past week, it pushed another centimeter into the right ventricle." She pauses only long enough for the new line to etch into Eli's face. "We kept it quiet because we couldn't bear the immediate fallout. But tonight was the breaking point." Luke adds, "We lied about the severity. It's on us, not on you. We will give you the full report as soon as we finish the scans." Eli's hand curls around the armrest, fingers digging in until the plastic creaks. Jenna bursts in before they can finish. She slams the door, breathless, and drops hard onto the settee. "I heard sounds from the hallway," she says, eyes locked on Eli's face. "You filmed it all. I'm here now for the truth, no filters." Eli doesn't answer. He turns the monitor toward Jenna, pointing to the dark cloud. She stares at the image, her lips parting as if to speak. But Mara cuts in. "We're ready to talk about what we withheld," Mara says, standing between Jenna and the desk. "Eli, we agreed to this schedule. We'll go through every test now, and after we finish, you'll hear the rest. What we told Jenna, what we still haven't said. No more waiting." Luke nods, a quick dip of the head. Eli pulls the recorder from his jacket pocket and taps it on the table. "You said you'd honor this," he says, voice low. "I need proof, right now." Mara clicks to the next file. As the next series of images flicker, Eli's shoulders finally relax, just a fraction. Jenna exhales, her fists loosening in her lap. The door remains shut, the sound of the hospital corridor muffled. The first scan reels back, revealing growth maps Mara and Luke overlay with their fingers. They speak fast, running numbers aloud, naming the shifts that kept them awake. Eli listens, eyes moving across each notch, images matching his own memory of their old discussions. When the last slide clicks off, Mara closes the laptop and meets Eli's gaze. "We are done hiding," she says. "If the tumor moves again, you'll be the first to see it. Tonight, silence broke our trust. Tomorrow, we rebuild it by telling you exactly what we see." Luke reaches for Eli's hand, hesitating just a beat before their fingers close. Eli squeezes back, the tightness easing. Jenna stands, steps forward, and lays her palm on the scanner casing. "No more corners," she says. "We keep hearing and saying even the ugly stuff." Eli nods once, head tilting toward the door that remains shut, then glances at the clock. "Tomorrow we review the new scans at 9, and I want you both in that room from the start." The others nod in turn, the agreement settling in like a warm weight, a reward for the tension they just unpacked. Light eased through the tilted blinds, while the scans lay between them. A new quiet measured not by withholding, but by the steady sweep of the fan. Eli lifted the recorder, eyes on Mara, then Luke. As if asking permission for the day to begin without the old lies, Mara's fingers trembled across the table, finally steady in their grip, and Luke reached out, brushing the sleeve of her jacket, sharing the tremor. Jenna leaned back against the frame of the door, her voice gone soft. The raw edges of her accusation had been worn down by the simple fact of truth laid bare. Eli pushed the recorder toward the center, palm down, and the silence that dropped afterward was no longer complicit. It waited, honest and heavy, for the next breath. In that waiting, they all felt the dead leaves of their former selves rustle off and settle, not to be gathered again.